stage is yours now, right?
Yes, this is mine. The stage is mine. Because I'm really honored to invite somebody on the stage with whom I had once the honor of working together. And everybody knows him as a co-founder at two really good startups, Skype and Starship. Ahti Heinla. Give him a big applause. Let's see. So, what
hi,
will
Priit.
Hello.
And hi, everybody.
What will happen now is that we will talk.
Yeah, so no mean jokes anymore.
Okay, no mean
At
jokes.
least I don't have any mean jokes planned. I might, improvise something, but let's see about that.
So, I should be interviewing you, so I will be asking more and you will be telling more. You're anyway a more interesting person than I am. So, let's start from the beginning. We both are technical co-founders, so I would like to dig into this kind of topic a little bit. And I would really like to start from your early days. So, what kind of kid were you and how did you come to programming?
Well, for me, it was kind of a natural course of action, I think, because both of my parents were programmers. And I was always interested in technical and science topics, and I was reading theoretical physics books when I was 10 years old or something like that, or 12 years old, and I'm not sure if I really understood a lot, but it certainly was interesting, and I started learning electronics. Like from kind of introductory, kids level electronics books when I was like 8 years old or something like that. But I must say that with electronics, it always was fascinating for me. Those transistors and how you solder those together and so forth. But I think while I was a kid, I'm not sure how many transistors I actually soldered together, maybe 3 or something like that. But I certainly read more than 3 books on what cool stuff you can do when you do those things together. So I guess I was more like a theoretical electronics person. But my mother taught me how to program computers when I was 10 years old. Like I said, both of my parents were programmers. So they were, my dad was teaching me the multiplication table, and then, one evening my mother came home and, I teach you programming. So it was kind of, natural. And for some reason, I actually very quickly sort of got it, what it is to program computers. So my first computer program that I wrote with the help of my mother was actually like a real program. Like it wasn't like a hello world or something like that.
What's this?
I probably said something wrong.
You
It's
said hello.
probably triggered by the word hello world.
Hello. So, I think we're going to sit a little bit. Maybe this goes away. Unless somebody tells us to leave, we're going to stay here.
We should just enjoy it.
Excellent. The first program was not the hello world, basically. By the way, the exit door is there, so if we see smoke coming somewhere, then we can leave right away. Okay, good. So not a hello world, but what kind of program was it?
It was solving like a mathematical puzzle.
Okay.
The idea there was that suppose you had 100 euros or 100 rubles back in those days of the Soviet Union, and you went to a bookstore and you want to spend it all. So you want to buy 3 books, and the cost should add up to 100. Exactly, and what books should you buy? So and there was like a price list of books, and so your program should select 3 books, and the cost of those should add up to 100 exactly. So that was what my program was doing.
Did you go to university as well later?
I did, but I dropped out. So I went to study physics because by the time, like I said, I learned to program computers when I was 10 years old. So by the time the university came, I thought I already knew everything. So I should go and study something else. And physics, I certainly I was interested in physics and so forth, but I didn't feel that I know everything, so I went to study physics. Then after 2 years, I realized that that when you study physics in university, they actually expect you to do real work in physics and be really passionate about physics. Whereas I was really passionate about software, and I was doing actually professional programming work on the side of university. So I realized that this doesn't work really. Or it worked on the first year. First year was easy, but second year they actually expected us to do real work, and then I dropped out.
You said you were working already. What was the first company you founded, and how did you meet this team?
So this was, I think, quite random. I think everything that people do in the teenage years, when they are real adults, they look back at it and think this was like completely random. I could, with my experience and knowledge, right now I could do a lot better choices. But I think actually the randomness was actually ended up good for me because my desk mate in high school was Jan Tallinn.
Okay.
And his desk mate in his previous school was Priit. So naturally we kind of gravitated together, and started. We were all interested in software, and we started programming together. And as a teenage boy, so what do you program? You program what you really are interested in. That's computer games. So we actually started doing computer games professionally for like 7 years or 10 years or something like that. Also after high school. So that's what we're doing while me and Jan were actually went to study physics. So Jan is a lot more persistent person, I think, and
he finished,
he actually finished, and I did not. Or maybe also that he puts more value in formal education, and I sort of did not put too much value. My parents were kind of terrified when I quit university. They thought I would be like I would be living under a boat or something like that, because in my family, I think like for like 3 generations people have went to university, or out of my 4 grandparents, 3 of them were teachers, and the 4th was a teacher in a church, or preacher in a church. So they were all kind of
educated
people.
people.
Educated people. So so they thought I was going to be the first one in our family who will live under a boat.
But if you look back to these youth days, what is the main advice you would give for a engineering student, for example?
I don't think the people who are like 10 years old or 13 years old really listen to an advice that somebody like me gives from the stage. So I think it's actually kind of pointless. I think.
But students at the university, maybe they will listen.
Yeah, I guess the main advice, and the main advice definitely is that I think people artificially put themselves in boxes. Then they think that they cannot do something because of I don't know, either they have like a wrong background, or they I don't know, tons of different things. Like for example in Estonia, in the Soviet Estonia, it was definitely I think the case that at least around me that everybody, there were lots of computer hackers around. Mm-hmm. They knew they can write great programs, or they're smart and they can do like great technical achievements, but still kind of everybody thought that the software that other people use, or like a kind of product, come from somewhere else, like United States, for example, or some companies which have some sort of fancy sounding names and so forth, and we are not a company with fancy sounding name and so forth, but we can actually found a company with a fancy sounding name, and actually the fancy sounding name is not so important there. So
I still remember that you produced. I think I later learned that I used the program 1994. I think could have it been Sound Club.
Yeah. So this was
on my computer
this was a
as
product.
a
This was a product that me and Jan and Priit were doing together, and a couple of other people.
And the funny thing is, I never thought that it would have been produced in Estonia. I thought that this would come from somewhere from US or something.
Yeah. I'm not sure why, but but certainly even the first, some of the first, software products we produced, while we were still like teenagers or 22 or something like that, were somehow really, quite polished and also, looked nice. So we had actually, some designer friends who designed things, and this was important because if your stuff doesn't look nice, then it just gives a whole different feel to it, and that's important.
Let's go to the meeting the team and choosing your founders. If you're a technical founder, for me it has always been an interesting question that at some point in your life you realize that you need business people around you as well. So how do you validate it, or how do you know who's like really good at marketing or sales or networking and these kind of things?
Yeah, so that's actually an excellent question. I certainly see that all around me, that in the tech startups there pretty much are like two kinds of people, more technical people and more like business people, I certainly see that it is a problem that if two or a couple of business people found a startup, they actually have difficulty attracting great technical talent, and they tend to they know that they need to hire a great technical leader, so they hire somebody and call them the technical leader, but they often do not hire the best people who for that job. And completely the same, or maybe even more, goes the other way around. That technical founders, they know that they need the business side of the company as well, and they hire somebody or they look for a business side co-founder, and they often find somebody, but this somebody is not really good. And I think the reason for it is essentially human nature. That everybody knows just about some field of the human knowledge, like technology, for example, which is just one part, and they don't know about like hairdressers, or they don't know about about legal, or they don't know about PR. So everybody assumes that the field that I'm working on is pretty much the most important, or they business people assume that okay, the business side is definitely more important, and the technology is it just solves by itself. It's just programming. I mean you just put some lines of code and it works. And the technical people, they think, oh, it's all about software. This software has to be really great, and if it's software,
Perfect.
it's software is perfect. Then the business side. I mean
Why can't you sell my
there's
stuff?
tons of products out there that are like technically not as good as my product, and still they sell like millions. So my thing they should sell 10 million, but they don't realize that actually to make this thing sell millions is really hard work for somebody, and also it really matters which way you build this product, not necessarily in a technical sense, but more of a customer experience sense. That really actually define whether your thing sells millions. And I see that over and over again. Everybody like if you ask lawyers working with startups, I'm sure they think that the legal side of startups is kind of the foundation of it all. If your contracts are wrong, your whole business will crumble, and that's the most important part, and everything else will just solve by itself. And then the technical people think that okay, the lawyers work. I mean this is just it's completely automatic, and by the way, we will write software to make contracts automatically. So this all takes care by itself, and that's why, since all of those fields take care of themselves by themselves, I don't really need to be very diligent in selecting those people. Anyone could do that job. I mean, anyone could do marketing. I mean, it's just easy. In reality, all of that is actually hard work, and all of that you should actually select very carefully. Who you have doing this work, and if you yourself, my advice would be that if you yourself are feel that you're not good at selecting marketing people, then ask go to the best marketing person and ask them advice. that how can I select the good marketing people, or even better, how or who should I ask how to select the good marketing person?
Who should ask? The same applies actually to also hiring technical people. So if you're a marketing
Absolutely.
person, go to a person who you think knows about technical side and ask them.
Yeah, and don't assume that the field that you are not a specialist of is trivial.
Yeah. So, but besides Skype and Starship, you have done many companies.
Yeah, I think about 10 startups in
10
total.
startups. So basically, people know 2, but there are 8 of them. So can you tell us the biggest failures you've had, like which hurt the most?
Which hurt the most? I'm not sure. I don't really want to actually categorize them by the hurt level. Maybe it's too painful. But certainly, I've done lots of mistakes in my life, and actually I think the startup where we were together, Daily Perfect, I think looking back, I kind of think that I did pretty much everything wrong there. Like it's okay. Maybe I did some right decisions there as well. But looking back, this is to me is the startup that I should do pretty much everything the opposite. That, like for example, I founded this startup while I was still working at Skype, and I knew, I had already, agreed, with, at Skype that I would be leaving the company, but we agreed for like a 1-year transition period. So which was too long, by the way, but still, after 6 months into this transition period, I founded a startup, knowing that I wouldn't be available full-time concentrating on it, in the next 6 months, and that's just completely insane thing to do. I mean, it's like I founded a startup. I hired some people and expected that okay, when I come back 3 months later for like a meeting or something, then everything is kind of built and works. But this the founding team and the founders of a startup are incredibly important, and the work that they do in inspiring people and setting the direction for the company is incredibly important. You can't do that, on the side of something else. So that was one clear crazy thing. The other thing was that we did no customer development at all.
We built a really great rocket there, I would.
Yeah. We certainly built, a lot of technology there, but we had actually very little. We put very little effort into validating that, whether customers actually want this kind of thing. Yes. And when I later read Steve Blank's books about the lean startup and the 4 steps to epiphany and those books, then it certainly was like a big revelation to me that okay, that's the way you should really do it. And his like level of advice was essentially that you should people know that they should talk to customers when they are developing a product, and they often go out and they talk to 5 potential customers, but 5 is too little. You should talk to 50 potential customers. Then start to then you can start make some generalizations there that okay, 30 of them have asked for this feature, or 15 of them thought that this was complete rubbish, but 25 thought that is actually a great thing, and then you can actually compare those numbers and see what will catch on to what level. And I actually know since reading those books, I know that I have a much better understanding how to do it. But I still must say that I am still by background a technical person. I am actually an introvert. It's actually really uncomfortable for me to like be on the stage here, for example, and so forth.
But you can do it.
Yeah, I can do it. But I wouldn't want to do it 50 times a day, for example.
Yeah, like cold calling people.
Yeah. So nowadays, essentially, I look for other people, to the companies that can do this. But I myself, even though I know that it's important and people have to do it, I still can't bring myself, to do it myself. Like 50 people, like to talk to them like all the time. I'd rather write software.
So you describe this kind of like technical first approach by Daily Perfect, but and that you should have a customer first approach actually. But do you see, when looking at other technical founders and other startups, you're also an investor and you have seen many, do you see some kind of like patterns which emerge again and again, and what are these kind of pitfalls and mistakes we tend to make?
I think already listed two mistakes. So one of them, like no customer development, or since technical people like to spend time behind a computer doing technical work, they tend to concentrate more on that. And I think that's okay. People should concentrate on what they do best. And I'm not advocating that everybody should become like some sort of an Übermensch. That I do everything, and even though I know that I'm not good at it, I still do it. Better look for than other people to do the parts that you are not doing well. But you have to have this understanding that pretty much all parts of building a startup are actually really critical, and it's really important actually to have really good people on that. It's really hard. This sucks. Yeah.
This sucks. It's really hard. This sucks. One thing I did learn from you, for example, was this 80-20 approach. When I came to Daily Perfect, and I have to be really thankful for you, because I learned during this less than 2 years period more than during 7 years before, and especially from the attitude side. So the attitude was that we'll build something which is good enough to prove something, but my father is calling. But does this kind of like technical approach also apply to business development in your sense?
I think this 80-20 rules are actually quite universal, everywhere. So yeah, what you're referring to essentially is that I think in Daily Perfect and also at Starship, right now, I usually do sloppy work. In the sense that
in the beginning,
that I don't envision that let's build this thing to perfection and then try how it works, but better build something that doesn't really work, or it's just a horribly bad experiment, and but still you do it, and then you immediately kind of you start trying it out, and I'm completely okay with building a startup in a way that everything is in flux all the time, everything is incomplete, everything is imperfect. We know tons of things we should improve, but still we are doing just the minimal work we need to, and then try it immediately, even knowing that it's actually kind of complete crap. It doesn't fulfill the needs that we actually have, but we get this practical experience. And at Starship, for example, we have some people at Starship who have a lot more academic background than I have, and they are sometimes laughing that when I need we need lots of numbers and lots of estimates and lots of like we need to know things like, for example, when our robots drive on the sidewalks, how often do they need to cross the roads? Like we need to know the number, how many road crossings per kilometer on an average in cities. And the way I do it is that easy. Okay, I'll take a map. Just a random location, like in Tallinn or in Zurich or in Montreal. I take a random location, just in Google Earth. Plot the route of let's say 5 kilometers, and just count all the road crossings, and then come. Okay, so this is the number. 5 road crossings per kilometer, and then on the next our weekly meeting, I present. Okay, I did some research. It's 5 road crossings per kilometer, and and this is actually very inaccurate way of doing it, but they're actually laughing at me, but that actually are kind of surprised also at the same time that 3 months later, when we know a lot more, the numbers that we then have actually are then pretty close
Close
to
there.
this, what I said.
It's roughly
it's not,
5.
yeah, it's roughly 5. So maybe then it's 8 or something like that. But it's, as a ballpark, it's really important to know, whether it's 5 or 50 or 0.5 or something like that. So oftentimes you don't need more accuracy than 20%. So you don't actually need to. Like pretty much a lot of decisions, you really don't need, in numbers, you don't need more accuracy than 20%. At 20% you can get a lot easier than doing a really comprehensive, research project.
Let's take one question from the audience as well. Do we have those catch boxes? Is there anybody who wants to ask Ahti something? You have the opportunity. There is a hand there. There was another hand which was much more eager. Yes.
Are you still writing software nowadays?
Yeah, I still write software. Maybe I shouldn't, but I still do. I think I spend right now about maybe 20% of my time actually coding, but I then spend another, let's say 50% of time working with other engineers and developers, asking about what they are building, trying to work together with them to offer ideas or help them to make choices, which way to do one thing or another thing or assign priorities and so forth. So I do that a lot.
There is one question more. Yes.
Hi. There's a lot of hype about flying drone deliveries right now. At any stage of a Starship Technologies, have you considered that way of building your company? And if yes or not, then please comment.
Did you ask that do I think that flying drones are kind of better than
No, I'm not saying if it is. I'm just asking for your comment.
Are you going to do flying drones one day?
One day maybe, but I would actually say the opposite. That maybe 4 years ago, 3 years ago, there was a hype about flying drones. Right now, there is a hype about ground delivery robots. So I think people have realized that the flying drones are more dangerous. They are a long way away in terms of regulations, and people actually don't like them.
And you have to spend energy to fight gravity.
Yeah, definitely. Energy as well. Like our robots, uses as much energy as a light bulb, and children actually hug our robots on the sidewalk, so they don't do that through drones. So.
Hey, our time is up. We have to thank you and give him a big applause. Thank you, Ahti, for coming. Please do stay.
I actually have a question to Ahti as well. So we've had a lot of people on the stage here talking about like the hardships of startups, and you said as well it sucks. So what do you actually do to kind of make it less sucky, or how do you relax? What are your
how do you come over the hardships?
Yeah, Ragnar was on the stage yesterday talking about how
depression.
Depression, how hard can it be, and you said it as well. So what's kind of
I think if you have an awesome family life, then that kind of makes up for everything.
Beautiful answer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.